rising sun, 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 sun.
What time it is? What time it is? What time it is? Now is it time for action? What time it is? What time it is? What time it is? Now is it time for action?
Now is the time to put them out. 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 for the UNC and the rising sun, 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 sun.
What time it is? No. What time it is? No. What time it is? No. Now is the time for action. What time it is? No. What time it is? No. What time it is? No. Now is the time for action. Now is the time to cast your vote. Now is the time to start to work. Now is the time we bring your hope. Now is the time for action. Now is the time to take a stand. See you and see have the plan. Put up your hand if you understand.
Now is the time to put them out.
We are in Grand River, the hometown of our candidate for Toko Sandy Grande, Miss Nabila Green. And the reception here is fantastic. All of her family, her relatives, the entire village, they are out supporting. And I am confident that Nabila Green will bring victory to Toko Sandy Grande.
My darling, just a walkabout.
You're not saying nothing.
I know. Say no more.
Support.
I know that.
You're not saying nothing.
don't know.
You're going here, you have our full support.
Right. Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Peter Kanhai, Chairman of the United National Congress. I am in the constituency of Toko Sandy Grande today with our candidate, Ms. Nabila Green, for this constituency. And right at this moment, we are actually in Grand River, Nabila's hometown, where she was born, bred, and grew up. And we are here campaigning with her to make sure that Nabila Green becomes the next Member of Parliament for Toko Sandy Grande, as well as to ensure that the United National Congress returns to government and Kamla Persad-Bissessar returns as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Hi, I am Nabila Green, your candidate for Toko Sandy Grande. Presently, I'm in my hometown, Grand River, with my UNC family, accompanied by biological family. We are on the ground, we're working hard, we're going from house to house, reminding of my villagers rather, of how important it is to come out and vote for election day for the representation that we desperately need. Now is the time for proper representation. Now is the time to make sure and be registered. Now is the time where 50,000 jobs will be available if you come out and vote. Now is also the time for secondary school children to have access to laptops. Now is the time. Now is time to vote for Nabila Green.
Now is the time! No! The time is no! No! The time is no! No! The time is no! No!
Here we are in Akono village walking with our candidate, Mr. David Nakid. This is his hometown, and I think there are about 197 Nakids in this village.
Right now, everything we're looking great so far, our candidate, sticking up to the word, Right now, we started with agriculture, thing up in the back of Akono there for the youths and them to bring them out, get them employment. David Nakid, David Nakid is a down to earth man. Cool, he humble, he does listen, he arms open out for everyone. Yeah, David representing the youths, Yes, right now we are on the great road to victory.
Hi everyone, I'm your candidate for Tinapuna, David Nakid, asking you to come take a look at the energy that the UNC is generating all along the East-West corridor, especially here in the constituency of Tinapuna. Come out and support our economic and social transformation package, designated by our PL Kamala Persad-Bissessar. 50,000 more jobs, lower taxes. Come and join with us moving forward with unity.
Hi, nice to meet you. Right, looking forward to the support. Things going very well here at Ballot.Thu Stand 1. The energy is high, the election bell has rung, and Ballot.Thu Stand 1 is ready to get Trinidad and Tobago working again under the leadership of the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar as our next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
I am Sharon Marat Durham, Shadow Councillor for Ballot.Thu, and we have been walking Ballot.Thu since last Wednesday. So far, when we have finished today, we would have completed 14 of our PDs, and the reception is exceptional. Everyone is coming out, in places everything, people wouldn't be coming out, they are coming out. Now is the time for the United National Congress. It's pace on the road.
Now is the time to put them out. Now is the time.
Live from the United National Congress social space, this is the virtual campaign on the ballot. Tonight, social justice is on the ballot. Sustainable jobs is on the ballot. Integrity is on the ballot. Truth is on the ballot. On the ballot, the time is now. We now have the national anthem of Trinidad and Tobago, followed by a prayer with Senator Anita Haynes.
Almighty God, we offer our prayers to you and seek your protection for everyone in our blessed country. We pray, O God, for you to protect us from harm and sickness so that we may have the strength to look after one another. O merciful Lord, we pray that you will continue to bless our land and those who cultivate our crops so that there may always be food. We pray that no one will ever go hungry. Grant us understanding, equal vision, and balanced minds. Guide us along a path of faith, devotion, and wisdom. Help us to recognize that each of us is equal, that we are all equal in humanity. Give us your protection so that we may live in safety together and grow strong and free together. We pray that everyone will find love and peace in their daily lives. Dear God, we pray for our political leader. We pray for members of this team. Protect them, God, and give them the strength and courage to continue their service to our nation without fear or favor. Thank you, God, for keeping your children free in our democratic state, where every creed and race finds an equal place. Dear God, we beseech you to bless our leaders, bless our people, and bless our country.
No, 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 the time is no, 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 the time is no, 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 the time is no, 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 no.
This is the virtual campaign on the ballot. Why wait? The time is now.
What time it is? Now is the time for action.
Live from the United National Congress virtual campaign on the ballot, the UNC candidate for Port of Spain South, Curtis O.
Good night to the political leader of the United National Congress, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, executive members present, members of parliament, viewers on this virtual platform, and my beloved brothers and sisters of Port of Spain South, good night. I would like to sincerely thank our beloved political leader for her vision in selecting me as the candidate for Port of Spain South, whereby the first time in history, the residents of Port of Spain South would have their own homegrown candidate in Curtis O. Thank you, political leader. My brothers and sisters, the only hope for this country is Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress. Ms. Prasad Bisesa have shown great leadership throughout her tenure, where she remains the only Prime Minister to create so much jobs, housing, infrastructure, balance the economy, decrease crime, establish a ministry of the people, and I can go on and on. Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the United National Congress is the only hope for Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago today, under the Rowley administration, is facing a serious crisis. For far too long, my brothers and sisters, you have seen and taken for granted, mistreated, and have over and over again, where employment is concerned, where housing is concerned, where proper agricultural development is concerned, where crime is concerned, where youth development is concerned, where youth empowerment is concerned, where the economy is concerned, and I can go on and on. When you look at the United National Congress National Economic Transformation Master Plan, this tells you, ladies and gentlemen, that Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa is solid in leadership, in taking the country forward into prosperity. This transformation master plan is guided by 5 principles: people-centered development, pro-business development, resilience, local content, and sustainability. Further to these 5 principles, ladies and gentlemen, the United National Congress Sustainable Economic Growth has Southwest Economic Zone, Renewable Energy Park, East Port of Spain Steel Pan Manufacturing Facility. Let me say that one again. East Port of Spain Steel Pan Manufacturing Facility, Energy Logistics Hub, Digital Innovation Park, National Food Security Fund, Gate Priorities, repeal of the property tax, ladies and gentlemen, procurement regulators, national recycling, sugar manufacturing, and agri-processing, to name a few. You can visit the uncplan2020.com. My brothers and sisters of Port of Spain South, and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, no one will be left behind under the leadership of Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Residents of Port of Spain South, it's high time you reject these people who have been coming last minute and wanting your vote. I am a son of the soil. I repeat, I am a son of the soil of Port of Spain South. I have been with you for over 40 years and developing young people of this community. And it's high time now you vote Curtis or Port of Spain South. I would like to leave you with these 5 things you must keep in your mind. Never allow yourself to be controlled by these things: your past, other people's opinion, limited beliefs, relationship, and money. As the United National Congress goes forward to victory on August the 10th, I urge you residents all over the country to come out in your numbers and vote UNC, vote Curtis or Port of Spain South. I am here to improve the quality of your lives in Port of Spain South, and we are going to settle for nothing less, ladies and gentlemen. As I conclude, I now thank you for listening. Special thanks to my campaign team based at the Woodbrook Playboy Spaniard. And remember, with God, all things are possible. Put God in front, and you walk behind. Vote Curtis Orr, vote UNC for a better tomorrow. Now is the time. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
No, 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 the time is no, 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 the time is no, 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 the time is no, no, no.
Live from the United National Congress virtual campaign, on the ballot now, the UNC candidate for Port of Spain North, Darren Garner.
To vote
Good evening, political leader, Trinidad and Tobago, UNC family. I bring greetings from the constituency of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. I come here tonight bearing good news. Proper representation is right around the corner, and we can rest assured that our country will be in great hands under the stellar leadership of our political leader, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar. I urge our nation to exercise great caution as we enter this election season. This is the time when we will be told a lot of lies, half-truths, and everything to distract you from the incompetence of the incumbent for the past 5 years. I come from humble beginnings, and I'm a son of the soil and port of Spain. I've watched elections come and go for many, many years, and the living conditions and the quality of life never improves. The word neglect is synonymous with Port of Spain, because around here, the word MP means missing person. And I have come to change that. I identify with your plights and concerns. And as the saying goes, who feels it, knows it. We say, be the change you want to see, and I've decided to do just that. There's always a disconnect between the realities of the people of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, and the representation we receive. And I'd like to say, now is the time. I'd like to ask, who better to represent you than someone who experienced the same neglect as you? Some may remember me in my days as a performer. Yes. Some people even used to call me the best dancer in Trinidad and Tobago. So I know a thing or two about putting on an act. And for the last 5 years, has been nothing more than a show. And I say, it's about time to stop the act and get TNT working again. I contested a local government elections for a seat in my community. And despite not being victorious, I continue to serve my community, serve the people. And this is testament to the ideology that we, the United National Congress, hold. This is what the leadership of Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar has taught me, and this is why you should vote for Darren Garner, the next MP for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. As I traverse my constituency, it's like a choir were practicing a terrible song, and I had no other choice but to listen as my heart and ear ache. Constituents repeating the same issues in multiple communities throughout the constituency. I remember meeting constituents in Federation Park and Ellerslie Park area, and most of the people complaining about an inadequate supply of water. In 2020, this concern was repeated in Belmont, then in Borsia No. 1, St. Anne's, Cascade. Something most of us take for granted is the reality some people face on a daily basis. Now, on the next extreme, when the rainy season is upon us, which we are currently in, and the shower starts pouring in, a lot of communities experience too much water as an overflow of the waterways that pass through these communities. For many years, people have been requesting for the St. Anne's River to be dredged, and their cries continue to fall on deaf ears. This is a similar cry over in the Cascade area in the community of Hilton Hotel. As the river passes on its course, it continues to undermine the roads. This is a regular occurrence in this area, and this needs to be addressed immediately. For how long will you allow yourselves to be denied even the bare minimum? The infrastructure and roadways in most of these areas are poorly kept, and in some instances, not suitable for use completely. In Cascade, in an area known as the Blanca, creation of new roads are desperately needed because the residents in this area park their vehicles to the bottom of the mountain and walk all the way up to their homes, and this poses a threat. At night, lighting is poor and their safety can be compromised. Similarly, in the Dhaka Street area in Borsia No. 1, residents are yet to receive paved roads to access their homes. I'd like to believe we all acknowledge that unemployment is one of the major issues currently plaguing Trinidad and Tobago. COVID-19 has caused great obstacles, even shutting down some businesses permanently. Relief was promised, and those that needed apply. Yet, they were told to sit tight, and they'll be taken care of. Yet another lie. Because unfortunately, they have realized they are patiently waiting for months for something that may never come. Economic stimulation is desperately needed at this juncture, and we, the United National Congress, have the plan to take the nation forward. Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, as mentioned in our National Economic Transformation Plan, we will develop a Trini Creative Arts Street in West Port of Spain, which will create many jobs. The Trini Creative Arts Street will showcase our local goods, music, film, theater, food and drink, and the many facets of our creative industries. This will encourage foreign investors, which will bring about the forex, which is desperately needed and in short supply due to the mismanagement of the incumbent. Many jobs will be created, and this will directly decrease crime in the constituency, which is also a major concern being expressed throughout the nation, not just in Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. One of the best ways in decreasing crime is fostering community spirit and camaraderie. The construction of and utilization of community centers will no longer be a novelty event. This will be the home of programs geared to the youth in the community, educating them on social skills and development programs. As I close, I'd like to take this time to reiterate that with the leadership of Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, we are going to see a Trinidad and Tobago right for our children, right for the next generation. And we are ready to take on the task of having TNT working again. All you have to do is partner with Ghana for people-centered policies, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. And Trinidad and Tobago, on election day, when you're casting your ballot, look for the rising sun for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
No, the time is no. No, no, the time is no. No, no, the time is no.
Live from the United National Congress virtual campaign, on the ballot now, the UNC candidate for Tabaquite, Senator Anita Hayes.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening to my fellow speakers here tonight. And good evening to the Leader of the Opposition and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Firstly, I would like to thank God for the opportunities that I have gotten over the past few years that has gotten me here today. I want to thank the Honorable Political Leader and the Screening Committee of the United National Congress for having confidence in me to represent my hometown of Tabaquite on behalf of the United National Congress. I would like to thank the people of Tabaquite who came out in their numbers yesterday and today to join me on my walkabouts. I have been deeply humbled by your show of love and support. It is an honor to seek your representation. I promise you now that under the leadership of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress, I will work tirelessly to serve you, the people of Tabaquite. I promise that together we will build upon the great accomplishments that Tabaquite has seen in the 2010 to 2015 period, and we would move past the years of neglect that we have seen from 2015 to 2020. I would like to thank my predecessor, the UNC stalwart, legendary Dr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan, Dr. Rambachan, I would like to say a special thank you for your kind words of advice that you've given me not just these past few weeks, but all throughout my time of service in the Senate. Trinidad and Tobago is now facing a perilous time in our nation's history. Never before has our livelihoods been under such threat. Never before has our international reputation been so tarnished. Never before has our independent media come under such blatant attack from a government. Trinidad and Tobago, this election is not just about saving our economy. It is not just about saving our children's future. It is about ensuring that we even have a future. It is about saving our democracy itself. Keith Rowley's government is a threat to the very fabric of our society. Having not a single accomplishment to speak of over the past 5 years, Keith Rowley is now openly threatening citizens of our country, saying he will not forgive them if they do not vote for him. Never before have we seen such bold-facedness and shamelessness in government before. This arrogance is destroying everything in our blessed country. Threatening people to say that you will not forgive them if they don't choose you, these aren't the words of a leader. These are the words of an abuser. It is gaslighting the nation. And that is exactly what the people of Trinidad and Tobago have had to endure in the past 5 years. Abuse and neglect, along with threats. You only have to look around our country to see the bruises and marks this PNM administration has left on our nation. You only have to look at what Keith Rowley has done when he first damaged the Sea Bridge. Imagine all of the time the Sea Bridge was working fine, and then under Rowley, it collapsed. The people of our sister isle has had to endure months of shortage of goods. Tobago's vital tourism sector was brought to its knees. And you still have Keith Rowley talking about who he will and will not forgive? But of course, like all abusers, Keith Rowley refuses to accept blame and admit that anything is his government's fault. Instead, Rowley is blaming Tobago, saying he will not forgive them. I want to tell Keith Rowley tonight, you should go on your knees and beg Tobago for forgiveness, and beg Trinidad for forgiveness. Forget I, Sasha. The PNM's campaign song should be Please Forgive Me by Bryan Adams. All over Gasparillo, where I've been walking for the past 2 days, and across Trinidad, thousands of families are now struggling to put food on their table due to the closure of the Petrotrin refinery. The same refinery that Keith Rowley stood up in Marabella and said the government was not closing down. Then a few weeks later, we heard all, and the employees were going home. He said, do not worry, the refinery will reopen soon, but it's still closed today. Another empty promise. And just like the pandemic leave that never materialized, and just like the salary relief grant that people are still waiting on because apparently our printer is not working properly. And this is the man telling us he will not forgive people for not voting for him. Isn't it amazing that over the past 5 years, government's printers were working just fine to print and approve checks for Faris Alwari and his rentals? They were working just fine to print and approve payments for sexual harassment lawsuits. They were working just fine to pay out for private security companies, just fine to approve $1 million state contracts to NCB Global Finance. But now to approve salary relief payments for thousands of families on the breadline due to the COVID pandemic, the printers suddenly stopped working. But this is a government built on nothing but empty promises and email gate, blatant lies. This will be Keith Rowley's legacy, empty promises and lies. Just look at how Keith Rowley is treating our fellow nationals stranded abroad. I fully believe that due to the COVID-19, proper procedures need to be put in place so that our nationals can return safely. But the way this government speaks of the citizens abroad as if they are pariahs or a burden, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to get the messages of people who are locked out of home. And the thing is, they aren't our burdens. They are willing, they are our people, they need our assistance. They are people who it is Keith Rowley's job to serve, not to ignore and treat as outsiders. Imagine It was easy for Keith Rowley to instantly open up our borders for Delcy Rodriguez and her crew, people from a regime charged with narco trafficking, but will treat our own citizens with scorn. Rowley himself said he didn't even know who Delcy was bringing into the country. He didn't care, but for our citizens, they want you to check every box and jump through hoops to get back home. But he's making our nationals beg him so that they can enter our own country. But by now we know there's a special relationship between this government and Maduro. Have you noticed that Keith Rowley can buff everybody but Maduro? He could buff the US ambassador, our country's largest trading partner. He can buff citizens for not wanting to vote for him. He could buff up women all how for choosing their partners. He could buff the media for days. He can even buff his constituents for protesting over years of PNM neglect. And imagine trying to mamagai all of us by firing Ansel Antoine for saying out loud what all of them were thinking all along. But he dare not say a bad thing about Maduro, a dictator charged with narco trafficking. And that's because Keith Rowley is a bully. And like all bullies, he's really a coward. And I want to tell Keith Rowley tonight that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will not succumb to the threats of cowards. We are not afraid of you. The people of Trinidad and Tobago are not vindictive, however. Unlike Keith Rowley, we can forgive, and we will forgive him for all that they did in the past 5 years. But on August 10th, we absolutely will not forget. On election day, you will hear the collective voice ring out across our country, and it will say, now is the time to get Trinidad and Tobago working again. Now is the time to get Keith Rowley out. Now is the time for Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar to take our country forward. And now is the time for the UNC to stand up for Trinidad and Tobago. Now is the time, TNT. Thank you.
No, no, no. The time is no, no, no. The time is no, no, no. The time is no, no, no.
Live from the United National Congress virtual campaign, on the ballot now, the UNC candidate for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin.
Now is the time to vote them out. 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 Now is the time.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening to our political leader, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar. I am Khadija Amin, your UNC candidate for St. Augustine constituency in this general election 2020, a humble servant of the people. I thank the UNC and the screening committee for this opportunity to offer myself in service to the people of St. Augustine. I am the girl who grew up with no running water, no roads, no electricity. I studied with a flambeau and got 9 O-levels, A-levels, did public administration at the University of the West Indies, then completed a master's in business administration with distinction. That is why I believe in education and opportunities for all. But more than that, I believe in people. I am a woman who will honor my word. I believe in delivery. I will continue to answer when you call on me. I am a person who is not afraid to roll up my sleeve, and in me, you have someone who cares. As your candidate for St. Augustine, I stand ready to make the UNC's economic recovery plan a reality for Trinidad and Tobago in St. Augustine. My friends, St. Augustine sits in the Caroni River Basin. We continue to be plagued by flooding. In government, the UNC constructed the Blackman Ravine in Cureps and Spring Village, the Dry River Ravine in St. Augustine South, the river banks in Ballot.Thu and 3, cleared numerous water courses, and eliminated or reduced flooding significantly in most of the constituency. But you know what we have today? Today, those water courses are abandoned by the PNM, and St. Augustine has been devastated by flooding. We must work together in St. Augustine and throughout this country to eradicate flooding, poverty, crime, unemployment, bad roads and drainage, and disruption in water supply. We must work together to regularize land tenure, to improve agriculture, and to create jobs. My friends, in St. Augustine constituency, do you know that the Cure Presbyterian School, which was 95% completed by the UNC in government, has been totally abandoned by the PNM? It is overgrown with bushes, overflowing with rats, snakes, and vermin, while the students and teachers of that school are cramped in the old building. St. Augustine is also the home of the University of the West Indies and 79 other tertiary and secondary schools. The PNM has totally scrapped the UNC's St. Augustine Education City, a major economic driver, development plan, and business incubator. This is only one example, or one more example, of the hundreds in this country of the PNM's total lack of vision for education in Trinidad and Tobago. The creation of meaningful opportunities will prevent at-risk young people from falling into delinquency and a life of crime. My friends, I live in an area that is labeled as a hot spot, and I see it firsthand every day. I am a mother too. I see the face of my son when I look at every child I meet. We must not wait until a crime is committed and then pounce on them. We must build their talent, lift up their self-esteem, fill the gaps in their lives, and encourage them to reach their full potential. Too many young people are without jobs. The candidates before me mentioned it because it is happening in every constituency. They are without opportunities, even people who have degrees and a skill. Youth empowerment, skills training, and the creation of 50,000 jobs is part of the UNC's plan for Trinidad and Tobago. And this plan of the UNC to use agriculture and manufacturing will definitely impact on St. Augustine. I can tell you that the farmers of St. Augustine South, Macoya, Orange Grove, are a critical part of the UNC's plan to feed our nation. The Macoya wholesale market, which is named after a son of the soil, Norris Deonarine, stands in St. Augustine constituency. Creating a sustainable environment for agriculture will allow us as a nation to feed ourselves, to reduce our food import, and to earn valuable foreign exchange, as well as to provide sustainable jobs. Meanwhile, what do we have to thank the PNM for? Free Wi-Fi, free LED light bulbs, the pandemic grants that so many are still waiting on, the closing down of Petrotrin, raising fuel prices. What do we thank them for? Increasing motor vehicle tax, putting VAT on thousands of zero-rated food items? Should we be thanking them for local government reform or campaign finance laws that never materialized? Or should we be thanking them for taking care of their friends, family, and financiers? You decide. Too many mothers in this country are without milk to feed their children. Too many cerebral palsy children have lost their grants and food cards. Too many differently abled people have lost their disability allowance. Too many can no longer get medication on CDAP. When you vote on August 10th, think about the term of the People's Partnership and the UNC's leadership with Kamala Persad-Bissessar as Prime Minister and compare it to the last 5 years of hardship and struggle. This election, my friends, is about Trinidad and Tobago. It is about you. I know that St. Augustine constituency is one of the most keenly contested seats this election, with, as far as I know, at least 5 other persons indicating they will throw their hat in the ring. I want to wish each of my opponents an enjoyable campaign because I am so confident that the UNC will win. I, Khadija Amin, will be your next Member of Parliament to serve St. Augustine. My campaign is about our plans for St. Augustine and the UNC's plans for Trinidad and Tobago. My campaign is not about petty egos. It will not be about name-calling and mudslinging. We have a big job ahead. This country cannot survive 5 more years under Keith Rowley. Let us work together to return Kamala Persad-Bissessar as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I call on you, every single citizen of this country, on August 10th, you have a duty to yourself, to the next generation, and to your family and country to vote for the UNC candidate in your constituency. Let us vote to return good governance to Trinidad and Tobago. Let us vote to get Trinidad and Tobago working again on August 10th. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the United National Congress government getting Trinidad and Tobago back together again. I thank you.
She continues to raise the hard questions that strike right at the heart of our nation. Her legal background stands as a defense for social justice and equality for all. She exuberates statesmanship, ambition, and a passion for progress. In these tough times, some are called to meet the share of our nation's challenges. Each time she is called, she discharges her duties with dignity and determination. Live from the United National Congress social space, on the ballot now, Senior Counsel, former Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, Kamala Persad-Bissessar.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, UNC family. Welcome once again to our virtual forum here tonight. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in because the feedback has been tremendous from the several virtuals we've had before, and we'll continue to that. The thing is, now is the time. The bell has been rung. Finally. Almost 5 years of pain and suffering under the Rowley administration. You will soon have the chance to vote for a team and a leader who can take our country forward. Last Sunday, we announced our candidates for the general election. You will find in this team a mix of the young and the not so young. You will find in this team experienced ones and those who are ready and eager to learn. You will see the beauty of our land and the diversity of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to thank the outgoing MPs who have all pledged to continue to support the party in our campaign and as we go forward to get TNT working again. Thanks to all the MPs who have served, some for 10 years, some for 5 years, and others for even more than that. I saw someone saying that the UNC team is kindergarten children. In an attempt to downplay and disrespect the young people of our land. It shows they have no respect for young people. And whilst we are working on developing young people, bringing their talent forward, I don't know if it is that their team may be called geriatrics. But I think that everyone who is willing to serve should be given that opportunity. And if we look at the world leaders now, we see that the young leaders are stepping up. Macron in France, he became president at the age of 39, president of France. Look at the top youngest leaders in the world. Sebastian Kurz, Chancellor of Australia, 33 years old. Sanna Marin, Prime Minister of Finland since 2019, 34 years old. Nayib Bukele, President of El Salvador since 2019, 38 years old. Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of Qatar since 2013, 40 years old. The King of Bhutan since 2006, 40 years old. Carlos Alvarado, President of Costa Rica since 2018, 40 years old. Xavier Zamora, Head of Government of Andorra since 2019, 40 years old. Juri Ratas, Prime Minister of Estonia since 2016, 42 years old. The world is taking care of its own. Throughout the world, the young people are stepping forward to bring their talent, their experience, and of course, share energy. I walked with Michelle Benjamin yesterday, and the energy was tremendous. It was uplifting. And it was inspiring to see the people coming out, the young, the not so young, who are very happy. I'm sure that Michelle Benjamin is going to win Maruga Table. And so our young candidates, I want you all to understand, they come from modest backgrounds. We heard Khadija speaking, growing up without water, growing up without electricity. Many young ones will tell you of their experiences. They are not the entitled of the land. They grew up with modest backgrounds. They educated themselves. They worked hard for this party for years, and now they've been promoted. They are not Johnny-come-latelys, They've been people there laboring in the vineyard. They earned their seats. Post-2015, when our party was abandoned by many people who were opportunists, these people, many of the candidates now, they fought alongside me to rebuild our party. I can never forget those who stood by our party in our darkest hours, and many of them now, through loyalty, love our party, and talent and experience, they deserve the seats that they have been given. They are the children of the real salt of the earth. They are not children who feel they're entitled because of their father or mother or brother or sister. These are people in our party who have fought and stood with us. And now we have a team and a leader. People really care about you. As I do, our candidates want to work to improve your lives. That's our goal. And of course, we don't just talk the talk, we will walk that walk as well. We'll walk the talk. I have presented to you many, many months ago our National Economic Transformation Master Plan. Again, I ask you all to go up to check it yourself. Each time we speak, we'll share with our candidates tonight, shared parts of that master plan. And the entire plan is there for you to examine, uncplan2020.com. I want to ask you, have you heard of a single plan from the PNM, the Rowley PNM? They didn't have a plan before. All they came in with the lies, you remember? The fake emails. They filled their pockets once they got into power. Up to today, 5 years later, not a single plan of how to take our country forward. They put a roadmap to recovery, all kind of generic points, no specifics for implementation. And of course, they have a history for almost 5 years of no delivery and no implementation. So that plan will stay on the shelf, on the books, collecting dust. For 5 years, what have they done? Tax, tax, tax. Borrow, borrow, and what? Spend, spend, spend. And now they continue to borrow and borrow and borrow. And when I talked about our plan to lower taxes, you know what the man come to say? How you could lower tax? We have to get revenue, we have to get money. They have one plan. Their plan is to tax people into poverty, and cannot understand that when you tax people like that, you have less money in circulation, less productivity, and therefore more collapse of the economy. Lower taxes doesn't mean that you're going to have no revenue. Lower taxes mean you will increase productivity, increase economic prosperity, and of course economic activity. That's what's going to happen. Our neighbors in Barbados, they reduce their corporate taxes. Why? To bring in foreign direct investment. Under my watch, we had the highest foreign direct investment ever. You know what happened? Under Rowley, not 1 cent has come in FDI, foreign direct investment. Instead, there's minus FDI, which means people have been taking their money out of the country. So that's where we are. They have no plan. They will attack every plan, but they cannot come up with creative ideas, innovation. Their one way to get revenue is how? Tax. And of course, borrow. And then borrow to pay, put more taxes to pay what they've borrowed. Listen, our plan is very clear. When you think about it, the PNM has been in government, what, more than 40 years, you know. More than 40 years. What do they have to show? Yes, they had resources. Each time they've been in power, there's been chaos. They have wrecked our economy. So what I'm saying, if we reduce the taxes, let us understand how that works. There is more money in circulation, more money to be spent. The more you spend, you create more jobs, you create more revenue, because those new jobs will create what? More taxes to be paid in any event. So lowering taxes is a tried practice, policy decision to get an economy moving again. I mentioned to you in the United States, they reduced their taxes, corporation taxes, and what happened? The US companies that were all around the world, because of low taxes, they started to come back home, so more jobs were being created. I see this as a very strong measure. And then you ask me, well, where are you going to get money to run the country? Simple. We have a plan for transformation with diversification as a key pillar of that plan. That is how you get money. You diversify the economy, you create more jobs, the money keeps spinning around, called the multiplier effect, and that's where you will get revenue. You will get revenue, but the economy will be moving. You know, I call for international observers. And when we head to the polls, you know, because we have so many of our citizens who are going to be disenfranchised, first of all, because they're out. And the government is saying they will not let our people come back home. And I talk about the hypocrisy. You open the borders for Delcy and company to come here to make some kind of deal. But you will not open the borders for our nationals to come home. And then what are you going to do now? You sign up for CPL cricket. So foreigners are going to come in, yes, but Trinidad and Tobago nationals who have the right to be every other country has been repatriating their nationals. You should put systems and mechanisms in place to be able to receive our nationals. Instead, you're going to put systems in place to what? Allow CPL cricket. Now, even though they said, when is it, after the election? 2 points they won. Is it after August 10th that COVID will be gone away so CPL could take place? But you know, it doesn't work like that. I am told by people in sports like Arnold and so on that they have to come in long before that, at least 1 month before, which is clearly in this time that we are in now. They have to come at least 1 month before. They have to bring in their equipment, they have to set up and get everything going. So that is the hypocrisy of this government. They do not care about the nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. I have said we will be guided by medical protocols, but I think it's a kind of hypocrisy regarding our own nationals for coming home, and now to be depriving them of the right to vote. That's a very serious issue. That is a fundamental constitutional right that goes back way back long before you and I were born, back to 1066. It goes way back in Westminster democracy that the right to vote is a fundamental democratic human right. All these persons, I call on the government to tell me, how many nationals are out of Trinidad and Tobago? How many? How many will not be allowed to come home to vote? How many are you allowing in to come in quietly and secretly and giving exemptions to? How many? Mr. Young, tell us, how many are you writing up exemptions for and you're letting them into the country while blocking so many others? That's a serious question. So I've called for the international observers. And The Prime Minister says, yes, of course, but hear what he says. Fella, just as you say, is a bully, you know. Nothing good comes out of his mouth. He says, well, yes, I'll do it. But you know what? Mrs. Prasad Bisesa and the opposition, they're just waiting and looking. No matter how the elections go, they're going to court. They will go to court. They went to court last time in 2015. Yes, I'll bring the observers, but you will still go to court. Mr. Rowley, I want to remind you that when we went to court in 2015, the court ruled that the EBC had acted unlawfully, and therefore the court is the place for justice. It is a court that has now ruled that your cabinet acted illegally in giving housing to Nigel de Freitas, or whatever is his name. You know, in a civilized country, yes, we have crime and guns, but in days of old, how did you settle issues? You went to war. You went to war. But because of the introduction of the rule of law in a democracy, that is where you settle disputes. That is where you go to the courts. And they have an aversion to anything to do with the courts. They always talk about UNC lawyers and UNC lawyers. Yes, I agree, you have the best lawyers in Trinidad and Tobago. They come from the UNC. Because your own Attorney General keeps losing case after case after case. So that's why you're afraid. You just lost that case. Your cabinet illegally gave housing to one of your senators. Why are you terrified of courthouses, Mr. Rowley? And I have sent you a pre-action letter. You are yet to answer what we sent to you. I'm waiting on that. I think you're also waiting. You want the elections to finish before you answer, because you may well have no defense. So international observers, we see what has been happening in Ghana. And it's a very important thing. In 2010, in 2015, even before that in 2007, we've always had the international observers. They have played a very crucial role in the Guyanese elections, and we expect that the Prime Minister will indeed write to the observers. You see, the way it works is the government has to invite them, okay, and then put things in place. If they are to come, they have to come now, because they will also have to be quarantined. For them to be ready then to work that election and observe, they will have to come in ASAP to do their work. I want to talk a little bit about the scrambling we see going on the PNM. That's not my business really, but just to tell you how this government has not been prepared. They announced a date, they didn't have their full slate of candidates. Even after that, they keep shifting and moving and whatever and whatever. And this is the same, Rowley is the same one who said that he thinks that he doesn't even think that the government, meaning his government, is as organized as the PNM. So he says the PNM is organized, but he doesn't think his government is as organized. You remember when he said that? And so one of their candidates now, who chose him? Antoine, made comments about the US, and they had to remove him. All I think what he said was just a repeat of what Rowley has been saying and his people for the past many years. So they had to move him, you know. What they know, you remember Camille in Parliament? When Rowley buffing up the ambassador for the US, what Trump could do we? What Trump could do we? So now Antoine said this foolish comment. You move him, why? Something is coming down. Maybe that's why we have an early election date. When Delcy visited us, endangering and tarnishing our reputation, they did lies. Up to now, you know, there's some hidden agenda here. But when we win the election, we shall expose all. I can give you that guarantee. The Minister of Everything is yet to apologize for being less than truthful with the US ambassador. And let's not forget Paria. The regime wants us to believe by firing Antoine, they are a government of global favor. But the fact is their shady actions have tainted our international reputation. Remember the Paria lies about the fuel. They have an obsession with fuel. You remember the fake oil issue? And now the Paria fuel that was sold to Aruba but ended in Venezuela but was not sold to Venezuela. All kinds of Nancy stories. The truth shall come forth very soon. So here we are in the midst of an election season. And I say it is a wonderful feeling to be out on the ground again as we blaze the campaign trail to spread a message of hope, a message of relief to many troubled families across our nation. Most of all, a message to all that brighter days are just over the horizon. Come August 11, we shall have a people-centered UNC government. We have been preparing and waiting for this day for some time now. We have been meeting with citizens, consulting on issues, mapping the path that lies ahead of us to get to where we want to be. We have a candidate, some of whom thank you all for attending and speaking tonight. I have told them that their country expects great things from them. I have asked Team UNC to ensure that they listen to the people and do everything they can to help and improve their lives. We have always known that being entirely dependent on oil and gas will be the downfall of our economy and our people. We have always made efforts to diversify and expand our sphere of revenue generation. I remind you, the Coover Children's Hospital, the Arima Hospital, the Point Fortin hospitals, all of these were for medical tourism, in a way to diversify. Yes, for healthcare for our citizens, but for diversification of the economy to bring in health tourism. People come here, spend money. Look at Rowley. Rowley contributes to the US medical tourism because every year he's flying off to the US for some kind of checkup. Well, I think COVID locked him down, or maybe the things he's been saying about the US, probably he's scared to travel to the US. So that hospital and the other two, which are the ones, from the UNC projects. Don't forget the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, again through the UNC, a lot of work from Jill and John and Munilal from UDCOT for these hospitals. That was part of our plan to bring in foreign exchange, bring in revenue through diversification of our economy into the field of medical tourism. Khadija spoke earlier about the education city, that our proposal and plan was for St. Augustine to become the education city of Trinidad and Tobago. And our construction of the South Campus, not too far from here, that was also to help with education tourism. So people will come into our space, into our educational spaces, again doing what? Bringing foreign exchange to access our services. And when they come here, what are they going to do? They will have to live here, they have to pay rents, you'll have to buy food, that's where you create jobs. And of course you bring in foreign exchange. So those were some of the areas. Sports tourism as well. Again, Anil helped us with those, the aquatic center, the velodrome, the tennis center, which they have now, they're so into rackets, they now call it the International Racket Center. We had the National Tennis Center. These were for sports tourism. Now the only thing they have going and running is this stadium down in San Fernando after billions of dollars spent. Sports tourism, these were some of the areas that we had planned to diversify into. Now, I want to talk a little bit, as we are today in South, plans for South Trinidad, UNC plans for South Trinidad. When we return to government, we'll implement our national economic transformation plan, as I said, with diversification at the heart of our vision. We will encourage strategic investments in niche non-energy sectors where we have strong competitive advantages, market opportunities, and growth potential. That sounds like big words, but what it means is that we have an advantage. We call it competitive advantage in certain areas. I mentioned about sun, sea, and sand. Other islands all around us, they have better sun, sea, and sand than we could ever have. But we have competitive advantages in many areas in agriculture, in many areas which I'll speak to you about. So we're saying non-energy sector, niche markets which are sort of bound to markets that people want our goods and services. This is where we will go. We have 12 key prosperity engines spread across communities. These engines will mobilize and engage the private sector, both local and international, and will have large positive multiplier effects in kickstarting economic recovery, fostering growth, and supporting diversification. Our proposed Cedros Maruga Mayaro Economic Zone will comprise a commercial services port, agro-processing facilities for things like coconut, rice and peppers, pineapple, cocoa products, coffee, ecotourism facilities, tapping into the potential of very scenic landscape along the Columbus Channel. I wonder when they move the statue, they'll have to rename the Columbus Channel, maybe, I don't know. But I'm not going there tonight. Real estate development, housing and other business activities. We will need all the assistance we can get to get our country running, and we'll retain a small ownership percentage. So we need private sector investment in agriculture and other projects to fund them. All will be required to join with government to fund projects in this zone that I spoke about, and we'll ensure that your communities are developed and you have better opportunities when we return to office. So while I speak about diversification in other areas, our energy sector is also important to us, but it's in the worst state that has ever been. Worst state that we have ever been. We're already talking about the energy sector is the best and better than when he came into office. You hear a lie, that is another lie to the many lies that they tell. The great gas price negotiator was whom? Rowley. Great gas price negotiator, flew up to Houston and played golf and negotiated gas prices. Between 2015 to 2020, under Rowley, gas price negotiator Rowley has destroyed the energy sector. Uncompetitive local natural gas price negotiated by Rowley and Young. What has happened? 1, oil production is down by 27%. Natural gas production down 8%. No new acreage awarded for 5 years. Drilling down by 80%, 80, drilling down. Petrotrin closed. ArcelorMittal closed. Centrin closed. Yara Ammonia closed. Methanex Titan Methanol closed. MHTL M3 Methanol closed. MHTL M2 Methanol closed. Nutrien 01 Ammonia closed. Trinidad 1 Ammonia closed. Numerous energy suppliers and contractors shut down. Jobs gone. Petrotrin fence line contractors gone, closed. No new foreign direct investment in the energy sector in the 5 years. Dragon gas deal, dead. Thousands of citizens fired from the energy sector between 2015 and 2020. And this man, so brass-faced, as time I tell the country, that we are better off today in the energy sector than when he came into office. I have always spoken about plans for diversification, which we will do to expand opportunities for all. It's very important. Whilst we go into diversification, we must also rebuild our energy sector. How can we do that? As I said, the man so bold-faced and lied and said, we are in a much better position today than we were in 2015. For the first time in our nation's history, as I said, 7 petrochemical plants have shut down in 6 months. And don't let them fool people into thinking it's because of COVID-19. All this was happening long before COVID-19. We must always remember that. Their whole campaign is COVID-19. Their whole campaign and spending is COVID-19. But they had collapsed this economy long before COVID-19 arrived on our shores. As I said, we saw ArcelorMittal close, Yara close, giants like Nutrien and Methanex closing, millions lost in revenue, hundreds of jobs lost at Point Lisas, and all as a result of Chief Negotiator Rowley, his poor negotiations with upstreamers. 5 years ago, they promised the country to increase oil and natural gas production. After 5 years, all lies, as up to this day, natural gas production is yet to be more than it was in 2015. Imagine this government is so incompetent. The Prime Minister wants to boast about deep water exploration. Do you know, under his government, not one single successful deep water bid round was held. Not one. Not one in 5 years. But they want to boast about deep water exploration. Let me remind you, the successes that came were due to projects begun under our regime. Those projects were started under the partnership government, and not one single thing has happened under this government in 5 years. So, where is the dragon gas deal that the Prime Minister promised? After 5 years, where is the new fiscal regime and incentives they promised to stimulate growth in the energy sector? Where is it? Fiscal regime, incentives to promote, stimulate growth in the energy sector. None. None. 5 years of old talk and no action. After 2 years, why is Petrotrin still shut down? And thousands of workers still on the breadline. Today I want to promise you, the people of San Fernando West, San Fernando East, Pointe-a-Pierre, going down into La Brea, Point Fortin, all the fence line communities and areas that were impacted by the closure of Petro, I want to say we will work with all stakeholders and do the feasibility that we need to do to reopen Petrotrin. That was the most tragic thing in the history of our nation, the most cruel thing that ever happened under this Rowley regime, that what was ours was a pride and a joy. We are the oldest players, oldest workers in the oil sector. Petrotrin was a pride and joy. During the war, do you all know that? During the war, it was because of oil, because of that Petrotrin, by another name, because of that. That is why we were a central hub in the fight in World War II. We were a central hub because of this great asset that we had. And instead they've brought us to our knees and they've shut it down. We will work with stakeholders, we will do the feasibility studies, and we will work to reopen Petrotrin. We will restore the jobs, we'll support redevelopment of defense land communities. I want to tell you, we also have a plan to deal with the broken Point Lisas and our broken energy sector. Within the first 90 days of coming into office, within the first 90 days, I tell you. So we have plans, and I said they're smart plans. The plans are smart because we have timelines. We have specific targets we must meet. So within the first 90 days of coming into office, we will remodel the fiscal regime to meet the reality of a low-price commodity environment. We have to, 5 years ago, government promised to deal with the fiscal regime in the energy sector. A key element will be the complete reform of the SPT regime and royalty taxes. What is the SPT regime? Supplemental petroleum taxes. They had promised us again to review and reform, 5 years, nothing. And of course, dealing with royalty rates, the negotiations, they have not done that. These are some of the things we will do within the first 90 days, again, to revitalize the energy sector. Financial capital and investment is to go where it is most viable. We are not the only country with oil and gas. And so we must be competitive. So we will unleash investment in new oil and gas projects and reverse the slide in oil production. We'll work with private investors, and very important, to re-establish an iron and steel industry at Point Lisas. You know how much money we made from that? When we were selling steel all over the world, ArcelorMittal. You know how many workers were there? And you know what I'm told, I don't know, Mr. Ron Farris was the lawyer for ArcelorMittal. He betrayed them, I think. It is alleged, given the facts, that all they had asked for was for them to get a little break on taxes and so on to allow them to go forward. The details on that was something I see as very doable. But they refused to meet. Remember, Minister of Labor refused. This huge company with thousands of jobs, directly and indirectly, and with paying taxes, bringing in revenue, and bringing in more foreign exchange revenue from selling the steel outside of Trinidad. You just wouldn't talk to them. The arrogance, they shut down and they've gone. I say we will work to reestablish an iron and steel industry at Point Lisas. Once again, provide jobs, foreign exchange, and improve the communities in Central and South Trinidad. Renewable energy. I'm spending my time tonight on energy. I've said we must revitalize our energy sector, but we must also look at other ways to diversify. And if we are committed to sustaining energy, ensuring a sustainable energy future for our country, we must do that by the strategic transformation of the energy matrix of our country. What does that mean? Strategic transformation of the energy matrix. What is the energy matrix? One, and always has been, fossil fuel. That's the oil and the gas. We acknowledge most of energy comes from fossil fuels. Indeed, they built the modern world, they created jobs, but you know what also happened? They created price volatility, price shocks, where the prices go up and down. Created unequal access and rise in carbon emissions. We have now learned that that is not the only kind of energy. Many years ago, centuries before oil and gas took over the energy needs, supplies of the world, what was it? Coal. Before coal, what was it? Must be wax. No, this is not a joke. All the candles and whatever, what was it? All the lighting came from what? Candles, wax. Maybe it was whale fat. I can't remember that, but someone will check it for me. But that's what it was. And as the world moved into energy, different types of energy, oil and gas. We have been in oil and gas over 100 years. But before that, it was coal. Oil and gas took over coal, and you know what's going to happen? And we must be ready. We must not wait. We must diversify. We must go into renewable. We have sun. People laugh at me and I about sunshine, but that's one of the greatest assets that we have. So solar energy. We have wind. We have water. We are surrounded by water. So we don't have to stay in the mold of oil and gas, the fossil fuels. We have to move into renewable energy. It is critical for a sustainable future, not just for us, but for humanity and the planet with respect to climate change. And so what will we do when we come to renewable energy? We have some key targets that we aim to achieve in the 5 years that you will put us into government. 1, create 3,500 new jobs in this renewable industry alone. 3,500 jobs. Remember, our plan is to create over 25,000 jobs when we go into office. But you don't just say create jobs. Where? 3,500 jobs. 3,000 just in this renewable energy sector. We will cut the fuel import bill by $500 million. Imagine we used to sell fuel, now we have to import fuel. When we sold our fuel from Petrotrin, we would get foreign exchange. Now we have to find foreign exchange to buy fuel. And then when you buy it, you send it to Venezuela. So we will cut that fuel import bill by $500 million. And what else will we do? We will raise the share of renewable energy consumption by 5% as we go in, and then we'll continue. You may ask me, well, how are you going to do that, Kamala? What are you going to do to achieve these things? A new UNC government will be committed to the following renewable energy initiatives. It's there in our plan. I talk about renewable energy. We'll establish a solar park, solar energy park in Tamana, Intech Park. We have the plan for it. We will incentivize the purchase of both new and used electric and hybrid vehicles, again, renewable energy. We will establish a green building incentive program. These are some of the things in the energy sector, both traditional energy sector, I talked about the SPT, the royalties and so on, the fiscal regime for us to boost that traditional sector, but then we go into renewable energy as well. And as I close now, I think it would be remiss not to talk a little bit about crime. Over the past few days, we have seen another spike in crime. Shootings continue unabated. Government continues to show complete incompetence in handling runaway crime. 3 murders on Tuesday night. And we have the most irresponsible and waste of time Minister of National Security still sitting on in a chair in that office. Their incompetence has cost our nation thousands of lives. That is the highest price we must pay for them being in office. We always had a plan. We continue to expand to treat with new emerging problems. What will we do to address crime? The UNC will invest in education. The UNC will invest in youth, invest in job creation because that will help bring down the crime. We will work to restore trust in the police service. We will strengthen the national security apparatus architecture, what did I tell you before, by restructuring the Ministry of National Security into Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Defense. Yes, thank you, Anita. Defense and Home Affairs. We will work more to equip police using the technology, and we must work on bail reform. The bail system is structured to keep the poor locked behind bars, whilst those who have the money can walk free. We have to do that. This will help our communities in Port of Spain, in Laventille, and in other parts of Trinidad and Tobago who are already disadvantaged. But the bail system has to be reformed. The bail system cannot be what Farris and Stuart Young and the others on the government bench accuse me and us all the time, the opposition, we're not supporting the bail bill. That is why we have so much crime. But look how many bail bills you passed. Increasing the penalty of bail, locking up more and more people. And what's happening? The crime is going up. That is not the answer. Today's editorial of one of the papers made it very clear. There are other things we have to do. We have to look at the root causes of crime. We have to deal with rehabilitation. The answer cannot be The only answer this government has to do to deal with crime is what? Lock them up. Lock them up. They better watch out, because after elections, some of them might get locked up for some of the things that they've done. So we must create a safe and secure environment. Again, I say, what are some of the things that we can do to help with the crime situation? I mentioned some already. While they speak of a small drop in the ocean, we will introduce tablets and dashboard cameras in all police vehicles. In 2010, I had promised you we'll put GPS in the police vehicles. We promised, and we kept the promise. We put the GPS. Now we'll have the dashboard cameras and the body cameras for police officers. This will help deal with some of the allegations that come out, that angers people, whether they say, is the police shoot first or who shoot first. The body cameras will help us. We will fill vacancies at the office of the DPP. Very important. There are so many vacancies not filled. So when you get to court, your case takes 10 years because DPP doesn't have enough officers to prosecute matters. We resource the Witness Protection Program. We'll modernize the Justice Protection Act. We have to build some judicial complexes to get the cases heard on a timely basis. We will implement the electronic monitoring bracelets. Can you imagine? Shameful. We passed the law to put the bracelets, the electronic bracelets, because you don't have to lock up everyone. They can go home, but you will monitor people through the bracelets, like a GPS bracelet, right? We left the law 5 years ago. You know, up to today, they have not been able to implement that law. Why? Why is that? Blame Kamala. But I haven't been there for 5 years. So we will have to implement the law that we passed when we were last there. We'll establish the National Operations Center as originally designed, instead of the watered-down version exists. Now, we had set up a National Operations Center, which is a first world kind of institution. And how that operates is all the law enforcement and so on, all of them are in one place. So you can stay in one place and know what's happening throughout the country. We had set up the cameras, we had done all of that. We had a place for it, and we had it put under the office of the Prime Minister, because in first world countries, that's where it is, the head of state resides there. The work is done by the agencies, but it is coordinated by the office of the Prime Minister. You know what they did? They took it on and put it under something called the SSA, which all it seems to be doing is spying on people. Thousands of intercept communications and so on, and not using the National Operations Center as it was originally intended to do. We will put back that Operations Center, how designed originally, not necessarily under the OPM, but it functions and the powers to do the work. We'll undertake an urgent review of the Commission of Inquiry on the attempted coup, to look at their recommendations to implement them. That was a very serious matter. We had begun to implement those. This government has abandoned it. We will re-establish the Ministry of Justice. Quarterly allocations should be released to the police. So not every Monday they'll go begging for money. They will know for a quarter, that is your allocation. We will deal with rehabilitation, the establishment of a criminal review commission, vested with the power to review the record of criminal offenders. I've already said that we'll give a later retirement age for members of the Defense Force. They go so early at 45. And they're fully trained, all that experience and knowledge that they have, they're gone. And when they're gone, where are they going? No job. It is something we'll seriously consider to increase the retirement age for members of the Defense Force. We'll utilize part of the South UWI campus to give training to law enforcement people, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate training. It will be a working facility in evidence processing, similar to the teaching hospital model. These programs will allow servicemen and women to build fulfilling careers, sustainable careers, while they perform a duty to our nation. All members of the protective services coming in should at least have a certificate level qualification before entering service. That's where we have to go. And those who are already there, we'll provide training for them to bring them up to speed. In addition, a new dual-purpose training facility for forensic science would be established. This would be a training facility. It is something that is badly needed, forensics, and so it is something we pay attention to. And we'll also continue to build on the programs and initiatives started when we were there 2010 to 2015. We expanded educational opportunities, skills training, trade qualifications. We will look at reintroducing these programs that this visionless and incompetent government has shut down. The focus must be on education. As I said, that is the way to a better quality of life. So, many of these, we have a great program, the brainchild of Deputy Leader Jill and John, called Project Hope. It is already producing food for people in Aukata. We will replicate these initiatives in other parts of our country. Let's give our young people, let's get them involved, help them to learn, help them to develop skills. That is the future. That is why you have the young leaders as our candidates, and they're not so young. But the youth is our future. Dr. Williams had said that the future of the nation is in the book bags of the children. In 2010, when we introduced the laptop program, I said the future of the nation is in laptops, which may be in the book bags of the children. It's in the laptops for the digital age and the fourth industrial revolution. So, I say, UNC family and friends, very important moment in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Now is the time is now to come together to get TNT working again. Now is the time. Now is the time. The time is now for us to work to transform TNT. Now is the time for us to get together to create over 50,000 jobs. Now is the time to put back the laptops in the book bags of our children. Now is the time to get Rowley and his regime out of government. So I said, do not lose hope. Never give up hope. The UNC is the hope and the future. We will work with you. We'll work together with you. But you need to come forward too. So you just have a very short time, just about a month now. August 10th is a very important day for all of us in this nation. It is a watershed day. It is the day that will bring the change that we need and that we want. So come out on the 10th of August, vote UNC, and don't take on the naysayers. You always have the detractors. Don't worry them. Just stay focused. Stay focused. The time is now to ensure that we move Rowley out of government and we put the UNC back into government to get TNT working again. I thank you all very much. Thank you so much.
Now is the time! No! 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 The time is no! 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 The time is no! Now is the time to vote them out! The time is no! 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 What time it is? No! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! Now is the time for action! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! Now is the time for action! Now is the time to cast your vote! Now is the time to start to work! Now is the time we bring your hope! Now is the time for action! Now is the time to take a stand! Cause the UNC have the plan! Put up your hand if you understand!
So let's all join together as one. If you believe that the time has come, election day when you stay in your hand is for the UNC and the rising sun, 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 sun.
We are in Grand River, the hometown of our candidate for Toko Sandy Grande, Miss Nabila Green. And the reception here is fantastic. All of her family, her relatives, the entire village, they are out supporting. And I am confident that Nabila Green will bring victory to Toko Sandy Grande.
My darling, listen. You just a walkabout. You're not say nothing. I know. Say no more. Support. I know that. You have to say nothing.
I don't know.
You're going here, you have our full support.
Right. Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Peter Kanhai, Chairman of the United National Congress. I am in the constituency of Toko Sandy Grande today with our candidate, Ms. Nabila Green, for this constituency. And right at this moment, we are actually in Grand River, Nabila's hometown, where she was born, bred, and grew up. And we are here campaigning with her to make sure that Nabila Green becomes the next Member of Parliament for Toko Sandy Grande, as well as to ensure that the United National Congress returns to government and Kamala Persad-Bissessar returns as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Hi, I am Nabila Green, your candidate for Toko Sandy Grande. Presently, I'm in my hometown, Grand River, with my UNC family, accompanied by biological family. We are on the ground, we're working hard, we're going from house to house, reminding of my villagers rather, of how important it is to come out